Over to the Chairman of the Audit Committee, Councillor David Harries.
Thank you, and welcome to yet another remote meeting of the Audit Committee. And so we'll press right on. The first item is apologies for absence and any notifications of substitutes. Do we have any?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No apologies for absence, all present and correct. Excellent.
Moving swiftly on then, declarations of interest. Would anyone present like to declare an interest in any of the items we're going to have before us? No, doesn't look like it. In which case we come to appointment of vice chairman for the remainder of the year. So over to you guys. Would someone like to make a nomination? Sandra. You've muted, you're still muted, Sandra. Still muted. We've got everybody muted at the moment.
Can I propose Howell? I don't know what's going on.
Right, well done, Phil. As the one who's not muted, that's a proposition. Someone like to second that?
Go on, I will. Go on.
Chris, good man.
Yeah, go on.
That's seconded. Okay. Any other nominations?
No.
No. In that case, Hal, you are formally elected as vice chairman for the rest of the year. Hope you agree to that.
You're muted, Hal. You
are muted. You unmute yourselves. I mean, if for such a small meeting, I don't think we all need to be muted unless there's a family of children outside your window. Okay, well, moving on to the minutes of the, could be a quick meeting if I'm the only one speaking. We'll move on to item 4, minutes of the last meeting. So do we confirm that the minutes of those that meeting is a correct record?
Yep, they're wonderful.
Aye.
Excellent. All agreed?
Yeah.
Agreed.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's approved then. Item 5, chairman's announcements. I really ought to congratulate Martin Henry again on his achievement of being appointed to the substantive post in charge of finance and the Section 151 officer at West Northants Council. So congratulations, Martin. And I don't think it'll be an easy job, but if anyone can do it, you're the person. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you.
Yeah, well done, Martin. I've lost count of the number of times I've interviewed you, and you've never come out second.
Thanks very much.
A good accolade. Thank you, Chris. I like that one.
Yeah, clearly the best person for the job. And whilst we're congratulating, we really ought to congratulate Tony Baggett-Webb, who is now the chairman of South Northamptonshire Council. Congratulations, Tony.
Thank you very much, David.
And I hope you have as good a year as you possibly can in the circumstances.
Yes, I'm not sure what it's going to bring forth.
No, exactly. So I wish you well. I wish you both well. Moving on, item 6, then urgent business. I have no urgent business. So we'll move on to item 7, the health and safety annual report. And I think, Martin, as you're ultimately responsible for this, you're going to set this off for us.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'll just say a few brief introductory words on it. Stacey Courtney has been with us for about a year now. She's the Senior Health and Safety Officer. And I've got to say, since she's been in post, she's made really significant strides in terms of improving health and safety across the organisation. One of the things that she did was she inherited an action plan. She was driving forward some of the issues in that action plan, and that was for the last financial year. She's picked up the actions that are outstanding from that, and she's then completely redrafted, starts with a blank piece of paper in essence, and pulled together a new action plan, and that's attached in Appendix 1. It brings forward the ones which were outstanding from the previous action plan and carries those forward so they're not lost. And then it just adds to it. And really just reformulates the whole plan and starts from scratch on it. It's got named officers against each of the actions. It's got due dates against each of the actions that are highlighted in the plan. And what we'll do on a regular basis, I say regular basis, on a quarterly basis, and there'll probably be only one or two more of those coming back to this committee, is we'll bring an update to this plan so you can just see how it's progressing. Within the plan at the moment, you will see that there are 3 dates that have passed already. 2 have got green ticks against them. So 7.1 was due in June 2020, and that was to do with crew inspections, and that's been completed. And then the second one was 15.6 of the plan in relation to people and property of risk register, and that's been completed. There is one where the date has passed, and I'm going to go back up to earlier in the plan because that doesn't have a tick against it just yet. So 3.1 in the plan has a due date of June 2020. So that's passed, and that doesn't have a tick against it just yet. So what I'm doing is just finding out what the current status of that is, and we'll report that back to a future meeting, just so you're aware. The rest of the dates haven't occurred yet, and as I say, we'll bring this back regularly into this committee to update and monitor against this action plan. So it comes to you for information, for endorsement if you're happy with it, and to note that we'll bring regular updates back to this committee for you to consider.
Thank you,
Agreed.
Martin.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Tony?
I guess just a query as we go forward, Martin, if I may, through the chair. Some of these are quite interesting actions. Would we expect these to carry forward into the new unitary?
Yeah, I think that's...
Crew inspections is probably a very good one, because we'll still be running the crew, I imagine, out too, for a while, if not for a long time.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good question, because part of me thought when we were drafting this report, you know, significant progress has taken place, which Stacey's actually brought in since she's been here, and she's been developing this action plan for a while. And being as we're almost halfway through the year, part of me thought, is there any point in bringing this in, because there's only 6 months of this organisation left? And I think there is, for 2 reasons. One, to make sure that we continue to progress with health and safety and try and improve it for the rest of the life of this council, but also that we do, wherever possible, incorporate good practice into the new authority. And if this is good practice and we can influence practices in the new authority by adopting something like this, then we should do that. So it's for those 2 reasons, even though we're halfway through the year, and even though it relates to this financial year, that we decided still to do the action plan and bring it forward. But you know, I would hope that the best parts of it will be incorporated and used in the new authority.
Will this still be your responsibility, Martin?
Don't know at this point in time. So we don't have at a detailed level where all the different functions and services will sit for the new authority at this point in time. So that's yet to be determined.
Thank you.
To think you'd be quite busy with finance in the new authority, but that
Quite
won't
possibly.
Luckily, that won't be for me to decide. Any other questions or comments? I mean, you've noted that it's this committee that will do the monitoring. It'll come back. We'll get reports on progress on this, so it will come back to us. Are we content then? We've considered it as we're asked to do. So we're only asked to consider the plan, which we've duly done. So we can take no other questions. Richard, yes.
Just a point, Chairman, through you, if I may, it will just be for noting as a decision. So having given due consideration, you would have noticed the health and safety annual report, if that's okay with everybody.
Yeah, that's fine. We agreed with that. We've considered it and we duly note the report.
Can we also thank the Senior Health and Safety Officer as well, because she's obviously done a comprehensive job.
Yep, I shall record that in the minutes if everybody's okay with that.
Yes, please. Very good point, Chris. Yes, yes.
And I'll
Please
feed that
do.
back to Stacey, who has done a great job.
Yeah, and it's invaluable, and also you know, as Martin has said, it's quite useful to have moving on to the new authority if it's something that's effective, and we'll have monitored it at least once, probably more, as a committee before we finish. So I think it's a very useful document. Okay, thank you, folks. Then, so we've duly noted that. Move on to item 8. Internal audit update. We've got Anand here. We can't see him, but we can hear him. Do you want to take this on? Do you want to introduce it, Martin, or Anand, are you going to go straight into it with us?
I'm prepared to go straight in, Chair, if that's okay with everybody.
Yep, that's fine. Splendid. Do continue.
Good evening, everyone, and apologies that you can't see me. There's some glitch with the camera, apparently. Yes, our Chair, our progress report, September 2020 progress report. This summarizes our progress to the end of August 2020. If I go to page 29, please, section 1, progress against the plan. Can we put on record our thanks to the officers so far for the assistance we've been provided with, considering the severe working restrictions everybody's working around, in enabling us to progress the plan as much as we have at the moment. We've managed to finalize one report and to provide a grant certification for the DFG grants. Moving down on page 29, we've got work ongoing. We're currently about 70% through the review of section 106 agreements. And if I just move to the right, work planned in, we've agreed for those two columns there, planned in Q2 and Q3 and planning Q3 and 4. We've actually agreed in scope, the timing and the scope for 6 of those 9 reviews. And in fact, we've started for the 2 of them as well. So we're making good progress against the plan. And obviously the intention is to get the plan completed by March next year, if not earlier. If I could just move on to page 30, Chair, a bit more detail about the DFG reviews which we completed. Overall, it was given significant assurance, and commendably, 4 of the 5 control objectives were given full assurance. The only reason, the 5th control objective was significant was that the concern rate at the top of the row is that there's a budget of about 700,000 for the year to be spent on DFGs, and because of COVID restrictions, that amount, needs to be monitored to make sure as much of it can be spent, because obviously movement in and out of people's homes, etc., is quite restricted, and that needs to be borne in mind. If I could just move on, Chair, to the implementation of agreed actions. At the end of August, there were a total of 89 recommendations that were due for implementation, and commendably again, there were only 5 outstanding as at the end of August, and the details of those are in Appendix 1. None of them are higher than a level 3, so that gives you an idea of where we are, and a lot of effort has been put in by the officers to bring these numbers down. And as I said, commendably again, just 5 outstanding. If I could just move on to page 32, that gives the internal audit plan that was agreed and the profile. The status has been updated, as I mentioned previously, and some of them which stated scoping have actually now been scoped and are work in progress. We're quite happy with the progress we're making, and again, with the assistance we're getting from officers under the current circumstances. Chair, I'm prepared to take any questions from anyone.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on that? It looks pretty good to me. I don't know, Sandra, you want to comment on the section 106 monitoring that scrutiny is looking at health and transport aspects of that? You'll need to unmute yourself if you do, though.
I don't think she can unmute, Chairman, by the looks of it.
She's
bottom left corner.
No, we can't hear you, Sandra.
I don't know what she's using, Chris. She might be using the Dell tablet. I don't know what she's using.
Can you hear us, Sandra? Yes, looks like it.
I wonder whether, sorry, Chairman, if I may, would she be able to use the chat function to type in her comments? I've seen someone do that in another meeting where they couldn't come off mute.
That's a possibility. If you're stuck on mute, Sandra, you could use chat. I mean, I can mention it as... I
can also comment, if you like.
Please do then. Yeah, Tony.
I hope it's the same thing, but there's been a working group, task and finish group, set up to look at a 106 allocation within the Silverstone Brackley area. We've had 3 or 4 meetings on this. Richard's also been part of this group. And we've come to some conclusions, which we'll report it back very shortly from the task and finish group back to the main audit. Or is it a scrutiny, Richard?
If I may, Chair, through you, I can confirm that I've been responsible for a task and finish group on transport, looking at Section 106 agreements and how that is looking. That group has concluded. We've had 4 meetings, and it will be submitting a final report of its conclusions to October Scrutiny Committee.
Thank you. Well, I've been involved in the health issue. And we've had a lengthy meeting where we involved folks from the health service, the CCG, and I think we're having another one with even more senior folks because we're slightly baffled. They seem to have inserted their own rules after the Section 106 says we'll put money will go into certain areas of primary care, and they seem to have put their own criteria in under that, and that's delayed things and complicated applications that come from primary care areas. But we're meeting them again. We're meeting the top folks, and hopefully we can resolve that and get through that logjam and resolve that.
I wish you luck with that, Chair.
Sorry?
I wish you luck with that attempt.
Yeah, well,
as I understand it, it's like money comes along and they just decide where they're going to spend it, despite where the 106 designated it was going to go. As I understand what's happening at the moment, they just say, "Oh well, tough. You may have earned it through the 106, but we'll spend it where we see fit." Yahoo to you, as I understand it.
It's been very frustrating each time. I think it started off. I was involved because our local surgery was involved, and they kept being putting bids in and being put back. And hopefully, when we get to talk to the top folks, we can persuade them that there's a risk if they don't actually spend this money in the areas they're supposed to spend it, they'll lose it. So we're still trying. I'll take your point, Phil, and it is very frustrating.
Yeah.
But we're working on it.
Good man.
Any other questions or comments on the internal audit? In which case, I think we just asked to note the progress report. Are we content to do that? Just wave your hands out if you are. Yes, thank you. That's duly noted. We move on then to the external audit report. So, Maria, you're still with us. So,
I am indeed.
I mean, I suppose I could and should point out that most of it we've already seen, haven't we? Of course.
Yes, yes, thank you, Chairman. And this was, and that's exactly where I was going to start, if I may. So for members' benefit, the reason we bought the report was just to give you an idea of how the audit is progressing. We are going to be bringing a final report that I will take some time to talk you through at the next meeting, at the same time as Martin brings the account. So the reason for bringing this report was because we'd talked to you about the fact that we were keeping our foot down to the pedal. I wanted to reflect on the positive way in which the audit has progressed and the responses from your teams, and the fact that the majority of the work is now complete, which is a real positive. We're not able yet to get to the point of signing because we do have a few outstanding things that we can't actually do anything about but wait at this point, and that's things like the pension fund assurance. We need to wait till the pension fund signed off before clearly we can sign off on your statements. We've got a little bit of final review and a small bit of work just to tie up, but that's all I really wanted to say, Chairman. I just thought it was appropriate to bring the report with the progress that's been made, so that any members that wanted to look at it at this stage could do so, but clearly we'll take you through the detail at the next meeting. So I won't take any more of your time up now doing that.
Thank you. That's just what we like to hear. Well, I would have liked to hear we were finally getting the final report, but yes, and the main update is obviously the evaluations, which you informed us of at the last meeting, and they're in here now. And the other thing is the pension. I suppose, I mean, whether I've got any questions, but my concern, I expect all of our concern, is we're now at the last chance saloon, because our next meeting is November. We really do want to sign off the accounts and get the final external audit done before the 30th, which is the delayed deadline. So I'm sort of hesitate to put you on the spot, but I'm going to. I mean, what sort of assurance can you give us that, but at the November meeting, everything will be done and the final accounts can be signed off?
I mean, certainly, Chairman, I think it's a fair question. Certainly everything that we can do will be done. From the point of view of the pension fund, clearly that's not within my gift, but we are all of the auditors are working to the end of November deadline. So the pension fund auditor will also be working to that deadline. I think they're hoping to get the work done in the coming few weeks or so. So we aren't expecting it to run all the way up to deadline. And we are absolutely chasing and following that up. Justine's not letting that one go at the moment. So she's been really good at linking in with the auditors at the pension fund. So I guess the assurance I can give you is everything within my control will be done. And everything that we have control over through chasing and pushing, we will do so. And as I say, the auditors that we're waiting on also are working to the end of November deadline. So it's in their interest to deliver.
Yes. Okay.
And if I can add something, Chair, sorry, I'll put myself on video. Sorry, if I can add something, Chair, as audit manager, I have, as Maria said, been communicating with the audit team who are EY, and because of COVID and obviously valuation of pension assets, it's been a bit difficult. They are looking to come to the end of their field work by the end of September. So then there's consultation, etc., etc. So it is progressing well. And I think the key thing I want to say is to thank Martin and his team for their professionalism and how well the audit has worked this year. It's been quite difficult. It's been slower than usual because we haven't been able to be on site and working together and just sort of sitting next to each other and asking those questions. But Denise and her team have been very, very good and quite impressive. So really want to thank them and Martin.
Thank you. That's useful. That does confirm our view of our guys that are doing our accounts. And I know self-praise is no recommendation, but we must be one of the easiest councils to resolve. So I would hope that for that very reason, it'd be in everyone's interest to just tick that box and we'll be done and dusted and you can get on with more difficult one.
I think the government would like to think that about COVID generally, but
oh well, yeah, well they'd like to think that about life in the world generally, but we find it isn't like that. Okay, any other comments or questions?
Just a very minor one, Chair. Page 67, which is about the independents. The final paragraph, I'm sure you'll pick this up when you do the update, but you refer to questions potentially being asked at committee on the 30th of July. And we've obviously passed that. So.
Oh, good point. Yeah, the very last last thing on that page says 30th of July. Well,
it's a very minor thing, but that probably just wants updating. And just to prove that I did quickly read it.
Well done.
That's an excellent spot. Well done. Thank you so much. We will make sure that's amended, but excellent spot.
Does that mean we missed it last time?
No, because last time was the July meeting.
Was
it?
Oh,
not?
I see. Yes, of course. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? In which case, we just ask at this stage to note that report and to note the optimistic comments that we'll have it at our November meeting for the final sign off. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Are we content to note it? I'm looking around.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. That's duly noted. We move on then to agenda item 10. And thank you to Maria and Justine. You're welcome to stay, but I know Maria's got to rush off, but if you need to be elsewhere, please feel free to leave us.
Chairman.
Item 10 then is the revised anti-fraud and anti-corruption policy. Martin, are you explaining this to us?
Yeah, I will do. Thank you, Chair. So at your last meeting, you considered policies on whistleblowing and anti-money laundering. This completes the suite, really. So this wasn't ready for your last meeting because we had a bit more work to do on it. And I've got to thank Rob for all the work that he's done on this, because actually he's drafted the vast majority of this policy, and I think it's very good. The old one was outdated. It had lots of references to Cherwell. It had lots of references to old arrangements. This has been completely renewed, refreshed, updated. As a policy, it includes all the bits that I'd expect to see in it. So I'm more than happy with it. There is then a plan. So the policy is Appendix 1. The plan is Appendix 2, and that sets out how we plan to deliver what's in the policy through the remainder of this year, picking up on the main objectives. I don't intend to go through it page by page. I'm sure you'd be pleased to hear. I think from my point of view, it's a really good policy. And as I say, I thank Rob for all the work that he's put into this. It includes everything I'd expect, and I thoroughly endorse it, and it comes to you for questions and for your consideration.
Thank you. Yes, I don't think we need, I'm sure we've all read it thoroughly. I'm sure we don't need to go through it line by line, but if I ask if there's any questions or comments first on the anti-fraud and anti-corruption policy.
Chair, my only comment would be that it would have been useful to have had the changes highlighted. Because unless you go back to the old one and compare the two, it's difficult to know what's changed. But I take the assurance that it's okay. But
yeah, and I think in response to that, what I'd say, Chair, is it fundamentally changed from the last version. So it was almost a complete rewrite. There'll be lots of elements which are similar in terms of the themes that are in there, but it was Rob almost did a blank piece of paper job on it, using best practice from other areas, but it wouldn't be very easy to compare the old one to this one with just a few strike throughs and amendments, because it's, I think, completely different, similar themes, but written completely differently to the old one.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think so we'll look upon it as a entirely new document. It's obviously changed significantly. Any other questions or comments on the anti-fraud, anti-corruption policy? In which case, any questions or comments?
Councillor Baggott-Webb's got a query, I think.
Oh, sorry, Tony.
Sorry, that's fine. I'll go back to the question I asked a little while ago. There's an awful lot of work gone into this. I've got to say, I don't know how new it is, because I wasn't around in the earlier part of the 5 years I've been on the council. Do we think the other components of the districts, Daventry, Northampton Borough, have similar documents? If not, is this something that we might also want to carry forward?
For you, Chair, I think the other districts and boroughs in the county will have similar policies, or should have similar policies. I think it goes back to the point that I made earlier on around, I think this is a really good one, and I think what we should do going into West Northamptonshire is be picking up the best policy and the best practice across all of the 4 current sovereign authorities and importing that into the new authority. So if this is the best, if this is the best practice, then something like this should be represented in the new authority. But I think we would need to have a look at the other ones as well, and just make sure we're happy that we do bring the best one across and import that into it.
And the reason I raise it through the chair is so much work's gone on with South Northants on this recently. If the others haven't been doing it, we may be far more advanced in our thinking.
I'm reluctant to use the word "we've got an oven ready" policy, but
that was your word, yeah.
it looks to have, as Martin says, it looks to have everything you would expect in such a policy. Any other comments on that particular one? In that case, any comments or similar comments, I suspect, but any other questions or comments on the business plan? No, same comments, presumably. Okay, in which case we'll move on. So we'll do it separately again. So do we approve the anti-fraud and anti-corruption policy? If you could indicate, please.
Chairman,
and also, do you approve the corporate anti-fraud business plan for 2021? If you could indicate. Thank you. They're both unanimously approved. Richard, you're going to.
Sorry, David. Richard was wanting to intervene.
I think I'm slightly lagging behind here, but I just need a proposer and a seconder as you are approving a revised or new policy. Happy to take the same proposer and seconder for both points, but if somebody's happy to do so, then perfect.
If I may, I propose on block that we accept both documents.
That's Anthony Baggett-Webb. And Hal, did I see you? Is that seconding the proposal? Thank you. All those who agree to adopt both, could you indicate? Thank you. Agreed unanimously.
And Chair, before we leave it, I've just looked up Daventry, and their anti-fraud and bribery and corruption policy was last updated in February 19. So it's reasonably up to date.
Ah, right. Well, I imagine that the new authority will do what it should do and pick best practice from each and produce a world-class document.
Let's hope it doesn't need a moonshot.
Moving swiftly on, we're now up to then 11. So we're at the committee work programme, which you have in front of you, which we've probably amended, bearing in mind what we've said before. So I don't know if I was to introduce that, but we need to add, of course, the external audit annual letter and the accounts, the 2021 accounts sign off in the 19th of November meeting.
Yeah.
And of course, so the health and safety report, presumably.
Yeah, it needs to be.
Yeah. So that's 3 additional items for the November meeting. Sorry, Martin, did you want to go? Is there anything we've missed or anything else on that work programme?
No, Chair, they were the 3 that I was going to highlight. So you picked up the health and safety one as well. So that's all 3 of them that need to be added.
So subject to that, do we want to adopt the work programme?
Chair,
but we ought to adopt it. Hal?
No, sorry, it was me, Chair. I just wondered whether would it be useful in either January or March to have a look at the external audit reports for Daventry and Northampton Borough? Just for information. I just suggest that.
Martin, what's your view on that? Well, why is the obvious question.
Well, I just thought it would give some reassurance to members about what's happening in what will be our new partners.
Martin, I mean, it's the same auditors, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say they're public documents. So if you wanted to consider them at your committee, then you could do. I wouldn't pass a view or judgment on either of those authorities' arrangements. But if you wanted to receive a public document, then it's within your remit to be able to do that, I think, unless Richard tells me differently.
No, that would be absolutely fine if they wanted to be brought forward. Yes, rightly, they are public documents. You could view them at your own discretion. But if you would like to bring them forward to committee for consideration, and if you would like to, on the record as a committee, note your neighbour's external audit plans, then that would be fine. No
and it may just be that all we need is the executive summaries. We don't need to look at the detail, just the high level.
I was going to suggest that I really don't want 3 huge documents, frankly.
No.
what's the view is, I mean, we can't do anything about them, but I mean,
No.
we can note them as long as I hope we don't upset our neighbours by them thinking that we're acting in a high-handed way, looking at what they're doing.
No.
Chair, sorry, Chair. The other option that you've got is that we just circulate the current public documents for you to consider, and then you decide if you want to formally bring them back into committee for formal consideration or for formal information.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I'd prefer to do that. I'm slightly wary of us. That's well beyond our remit. But I understand why you're saying it, Chris. But I just think I'm not sure what we could do about it other than be aware. So I think that I think that's a good suggestion. Are we content that we get sent them?
Yeah, and perhaps again just the executive summaries.
Yeah, we don't need the detail.
Yeah, and I mean, if we get sent the executive summary and reminded where we can look it up, that's up to us then, isn't it? If we want to get into any of the fine detail. But I'm slightly wary of having the whole thing come to us as an audit committee. That's a bit high-handed, I feel, or it will give that impression. I know we're pretty good. Well, I think we're excellent, but I'm not sure that we need to and should be looking at other councils' audit arrangements.
Only for guidance.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Chair, I will circulate the public documents for your information then outside of the official formal committee meeting.
Yeah, I'm content with that. Are we happy to do that?
Yeah.
I think it'd be useful to see, and it's a good point, but I don't think it's something we should be doing formally, frankly. Okay, so are there any other items or issues on the work programme? So I think we've adopted it as amended. Are we content to adopt it as amended with those three things that we put in right at the beginning?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. In that case, we move on then to the exclusion of the press and public. I'm not sure if there are any press and public here. And so... well,
we need to stop the streaming, don't we, at this point?
I was going to say, well, let's pass the resolution first. So,
sorry, David.
Do we agree that that the following report contains exempt information, which is the progress on the counter fraud service, and it contains information relating to the prevention, investigation, or prosecution of crime, which means it should be exempt, and we go into the private session. Do we agree?
I'll propose the move.
Agreed.
Confidential.
Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second it then.
Fantastic. In that case, the webcast has now ended.